At first, it doesn't feel real. You're sitting across from someone you once shared a life with, a house, a bed, maybe even kids, and now every word exchanged feels like a transaction. Divorce isn't just paperwork or court dates. It's a slow unraveling of your identity. And for a lot of men, it's not the legal battle that breaks them. It's the quiet mistakes made in the shadows. The ones no one talks about. You're told to stay strong, be logical, don't let your emotions get the best of you. But beneath that calm surface, something else happens. Doubt creeps in, anger simmers, and before you even realize it, you're reacting from fear instead of strategy. And those small psychological slip-ups, they don't just cost you in court. They cost you your peace, your dignity, and sometimes your future. This isn't about blaming or shaming. It's about finally seeing the traps that smart men fall into when everything feels like it's falling apart. Because the truth is, the biggest damage doesn't come from what your ex does. It comes from the things you didn't even know you were doing to yourself. Let's talk about the 5 psychological mistakes men make during divorce and why they backfire in ways most people never see coming. He stopped talking the day she filed. Not to her. He'd already gone cold there, but to everyone else. Friends would call, ask if he was okay, and he'd brush it off. I'm fine, he'd say like it was nothing. But inside, the silence was building. And that's the first mistake too many men make when divorce hits. They shut down. Bottling it up feels like control. It feels like strength. You think if I don't cry, don't vent, don't lose it, I'm winning. But that silence turns toxic fast. You start holding your breath through every conversation, pretending it doesn't bother you, while your mind replays every argument, every insult, every failure like a broken record you can't shut off. Here's the reality. What you suppress doesn't disappear. It leaks out in other ways: short tempers, bad decisions, impulsive texts at 2 a.m., or showing up in court with your jaw clenched so tight the judge can see the storm behind your eyes. Emotional suppression doesn't protect you. It blinds you. Psychologists have found that men who suppress their emotions during divorce are more likely to experience severe post-divorce depression, delayed recovery, and even physical health issues: insomnia, migraines, blood pressure spikes. And the worst part? They don't realize it until everything around them starts cracking. You might think venting or therapy is weak. But here's what's actually weak: letting silence control your life while pretending you're in charge. Processing the pain is what helps you actually move on, without it festering beneath every future relationship. Because silence doesn't make you strong. Understanding what's behind the silence does. He thought he had a win. Not just legally, emotionally, symbolically. Like this was some final battle where walking away with more meant walking away whole. That's where the second mistake begins: treating divorce like a war. It starts subtle. You tell yourself you're just protecting your interests. But then it escalates. You want the house, the car, the kids, everything. Not because you need it all, but because the idea of losing feels unbearable. Somewhere deep down, the pain twists into vengeance. And that's when things start to backfire. Divorce isn't a war you win. It's damage you manage. But when men treat it like a battlefield, they often destroy far more than they protect. Lawyers get aggressive. Costs spiral. Every conversation turns into strategy, not communication. The kids get caught in the crossfire, and the judge? They see it all. Judges can tell when someone's not negotiating in good faith. That win at all costs energy doesn't look powerful. It looks unstable. And it can tank your credibility fast. You might walk in thinking you're showing strength, but what the court sees is a man who's more focused on revenge than resolution. And when custody's on the line, that perception matters. But here's the part no one tells you. The more you try to destroy your ex, the more pieces of yourself you lose in the process. You lose money. You lose peace. And eventually, you lose the future you're supposed to be rebuilding. Fighting for fairness is one thing. But if you find yourself fighting just to hurt someone back, stop. Because in war, even the winner walks away bleeding. He smiled at work, laughed with friends, told everyone he was doing fine. But the truth was, when the door closed at night, the silence hit harder than ever. That's mistake number 4. Pretending you're okay when you're quietly falling apart. It's one of the most common traps men fall into during divorce. They become experts at hiding the pain, not just from others, but from themselves. They convince everyone they're handling it, while inside, everything is unraveling. And the longer they fake being fine, the deeper the damage goes. There's this unspoken rule among men: don't show weakness. Don't admit you're hurting. But that mindset doesn't make you resilient. It makes you brittle. You hold it together in public, then break down in private. You numb the pain with distractions, alcohol, work, random hookups, anything to avoid sitting still with the truth. But the avoidance only delays the crash. Divorce isn't just a legal event. It's a grief process. And just like any loss, if you don't face it, it festers. Repressed grief has a nasty way of showing up later, in the form of chronic stress, depression, anxiety, or sudden breakdowns that seem to come out of nowhere. You start snapping at people you care about, losing motivation, feeling like you're drifting without direction. And maybe the scariest part is this: by pretending everything's fine, you train everyone around you to believe it. So when you finally do need help, no one's there because you've convinced them you never did. You don't have to fall apart publicly, but you do need a space to be honest with yourself, with a therapist, with someone who won't feed you lines about manning up. Because healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens the moment you stop pretending you're not hurt. At first, it was just a temporary pause, a few weeks to regroup. Then weeks turned into months, and before he knew it, he wasn't rebuilding. He was just existing. That's mistake number 5, letting the divorce become your identity. It happens quietly, after months of stress, paperwork, court dates, and emotional battles. The divorce becomes the only story you know how to tell. It starts defining how you see yourself. You're no longer just a man. You're the divorce guy, the one who lost everything, the one who got screwed, the victim, the survivor, the bitter one. And the scariest part? You start living like that's all you'll ever be. Every conversation circles back to what happened. Every decision is made through the lens of what she did, or what the court ruled, or what you lost. You don't realize that by anchoring your identity to the pain, you're dragging it into every part of your future. New relationships feel risky. New routines feel pointless. You stop creating, growing, dreaming, because some part of you believes that chapter closed for good. But here's the truth. Divorce is something that happened to you. It's not who you are. You had a life before the marriage. You have one after. But you can't move into that next version of yourself if you keep staring at the wreckage of what's gone. The longer you live inside the story of loss, the harder it is to write a new one. The men who heal don't just get over it. They outgrow it. They stop clinging to the identity of what broke them and start building something better. Not to prove a point, not to get revenge, but because they finally understand that pain is just one part of the story, not the ending. And when that shift happens, everything else begins to change. By now, you've probably noticed something. None of these mistakes are about paperwork, lawyers, or courtrooms. They're not about strategy. They're about identity. About how a man responds when everything he thought was solid suddenly falls apart. And the truth is, divorce doesn't just break a relationship. It tests the foundation you've built your life on. The 5 mistakes: bottling up emotions, treating divorce like a war, listening to the wrong people, pretending you're fine, and letting the divorce define you, aren't just missteps. They're silent traps. And once you're in them, it's easy to confuse pain for power, silence for strength, and survival for healing. But here's what most men don't hear enough. You're allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to not have it all figured out. And you're allowed to rebuild in a way that doesn't look like anyone else's version of getting through it. Because real strength isn't found in how hard you fight. It's in how deeply you understand yourself when the fight is over. The men who come out of divorce stronger aren't the ones who kept score. They're the ones who faced the truth, quietly, painfully, honestly, and chose not to live inside their worst chapter. So if you're in the middle of this, or still healing from it, remember, this isn't the end of you. It's the beginning of who you become next.